When we are young, we get exposed to monsters in films, in bedtime stories, but what's fake, but what's real, who knows? But today I'm looking at medieval monsters. I'd like to start with bestiary. As we can see, bestiary were an African tribe of headless men native to Libya and Ethiopia. Their faces were on the chest. Their name translates to chest eyes. As travel became more popular through Europe, especially in the medieval times, these headless people started to pop up all around Europe and all around the world. I'll be showing you a few different ones near the end of this little section, but as you can see from the pictures, we have the bestiary. They appeared in gargoyles or ornaments to cathedrals, to churches. They appeared in artwork, woodwork, you name it. Medieval scripts in different forms, as you can see, with wings and heads. All we've got to ask is, are these just people who had a disability, but did they have no neck, or was it real? In this video I'm just showing you medieval monsters that I've found that are interesting, and I want to try and find a little bit on each one, but it's up to you whether you believe it's real or fake. But as you can see, there is a lot of them. Next picture coming up, obviously it's a picture with the dogmen, Cyclops, a Siamese Janus, and the big foot. But they also have a Xingjiang. Xingjiang were from China, and basically, as you can read there, the supreme god cut off his head, buried him in an eternal auspicious mountain, but his nipples transformed into eyes and his navel became a mouth. So China has a bestiary. So we go a call across the world and we just find them in different names in different cultures. You have in Japan Donatsura, in Argentina you have Iwapanoma. As you can see, it's crazy. So these images, real or fake, appear all around this realm in the same manner. So who knows what went on with it? DNA manipulation, like Plum Island, where they're making different species. I mean, in India they have Kabanda. So this thing gets around, and like we say, is it true, is it fake, who knows? But it's entertaining and it's interesting just to do your research. Another interesting one now are the Penotti. Now, Penotti were the so-called mythical race of people, which name derives from the Greek Penotti, meaning all ears. So you can see that all ears derive from in stonework, ancient manuscripts. Again, they're everywhere. I mean, some say they were able to hear evil. So it's just crazy when you just really look into these things. Did these exist or not? Who knows? I mean, as you can see, they appear throughout this realm. They appear in China, the name of Near Guru in the Ming Dynasty, and that's come up now. You also have them found in India called Kanaparavanana, which is a mouthful. It's crazy, isn't it? But again, interesting. And they turn up in the Mapping Monday. Sounds like Happy Monday, but the Hereford Mapping Monday, 700-year-old map, they appear on that. And as we said before, the Near Guru, the Ming Dynasty. But look, here's another artist's impression of them. What do they look like? To me, it looks like bigger ears, but they look like Dobby the house elf. Or could we say they derive from the Ferengi from Star Trek? But hey, in an old manuscript from the 13th, 14th century, the big-eared people appear there. But are these demons? Or are these where they got the inspiration for Yoda? It's just all interesting, and it's another one, is the Penotti. Monopods, also known as sciapods. Pardon the pronunciation if I've just done that bad. But again, they were a tribe of one-legged, giant-footed people who raised their large foot into the air to shade from the sun. And you can see appeared in woodwork, stonework, carvings, you name it, these guys appear. So just like the other two, again a mythical race that they decided to use in artwork, books, manuscripts, carvings. Like I was saying, why? They're also known to show these as places from unknown locations, also known as terra incognita. So places that they didn't explore, they say these things were living there. Could be true, could be false, I just don't know. It's interesting though, isn't it, when you look at all these manner of beings. Were they real, were they fake? Just like I'm asking all the way through this video, but it's just interesting nonetheless. And as you can see, they are ancient. They appear on really old documents. Again, they appear on maps, as we can see in front of us. So, you know what I mean? Like I always talk about, it doesn't matter if it's real or not, someone believes in them. Whether it's modern aspects like we have here, were they deformities like similar to what mermaids are? As you can see from these modern interpretations, these modern disabilities that people have come, were these the birthplace of the myth of mermaids? Who knows? Again, it's just really blowing me away, and it's just interesting to look at. Right guys, thank you so far. This is the Trusty servants, but when you look and research, it's sometimes called a Herco service, which technically it's not, but a Herco service is a stag and a goat, but a Trusty servant is associated with a few animal parts, and they say the servant had a deidetic function, and it's accompanied by an allegorical verse, and here's the verse now. A trusty servant's picture would you see, this figure well survey, whoever you be. The porker snout, not nice in diet shows, the padlock shut, no secret he'll disclose. Patient to angry lords, the ass gives ear. Swiftness on errand, the stag's feet declare. Laden in his left hand, apt to labour's scythe. The coat his neatness, the open hand his faith. Girt with sword, his shield upon his arm, himself the master, he'll protect you from harm. And as you can see, you get them in various forms, door knockers, brooches, everything, you name it. So I don't actually, this is technically a medieval monster, but it does appear, and it appears on pottery, you name it, it gets about. But it's just very interesting. I had to include it because I haven't seen it before, and it could mean a lot of things. I mean, to be honest, when you look at it, it does look a little bit like Anubis, but hey, that's just my little thought on it. This one is manticore, and in medieval Christianity, the manticore was a symbol of the devil. So just keep that in mind when I'm reading it out. Now, the manticore, this is from Aristotle. The monster its name from the old Persian, meaning man-eater. The manticore had the body of a lion and a human face. It had triple rows of razor-sharp fangs and a poisonous scorpion-like tail with spines that could be shot like darts. The manticore was said to possess a shrill light voice and a small trumpet or pipe, the sound of that. But what's interesting is, as you can see, it has a human face and the body of a lion. It does change through medieval history, but as I said before, they said it was a symbol of the devil. It's funny that, because the Sphinx with wings was an image used for God, so the very, 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 very similar symbols were used for both the god and devil. But as you can see, it's an interesting topic, this, the manticore, and you can see it through the medieval period, changing slightly from its feet to its tail to its head, but to its core, the manticore, the man-eater, it did have a head of a man, quite see. But as I said, you can get them with wings. And you have an image of a manticore now. I think this is on a map, I'm not quite sure, or a manuscript. But what's interesting is, for any of you guys that are into Tartaria or mud flood, you do actually get a manticore from that period too. As you can see, the manticore monster of Tartary. 17th century. I'm a sci-fi geek, guys, I don't hide that fact. If you remember Dark Angel, how they were genetically modifying kids to be super soldiers. The bad guys in that were called manticore. But what's interesting, that obviously some of them were kid-like and, you know, raised as kids and changed. They did have a character called Joshua who looked like a lion. It's funny that, isn't it, considering we're talking about the manticore. Right guys, this is sea bishops and sea monk. The sea monk was a sea creature found off the eastern coast of the Danish island of Zealand in 1546 and was described as a fish that resembled a human monk in a habit. And also I include the sea bishops in this too, they're coming up in a sec. They were found in the 16th century. So these are just things that I've seen about, and yes, we can all agree it could be misidentified or identification or real, fake, who knows. We just don't know. We don't explore none of the seas, and sometimes there is creatures out there, here's the sea bishops, that do resemble weird creatures. But hey, this is just fun and an interesting topic. What's funny is if you look at the sea bishops in particular, what does it resemble to me? It resembles Dagon. And then that link, the fish god. To me it does. It might not be to you guys, but I can see from them sea bishops how Dagon, the fish god, is. Also, we get them in Japan as umibozu. And obviously there will be more the monk, obviously the Buddhist monk. But you're getting this sea monk, sea bishop, umibozu, again all around this realm. So it's just interesting to catch up on things and look into things that we may not normally look into. Could it be a fish misidentified like this one, or the angel shark? Who knows? We just don't know. But that is a sea bishop, the sea monk, the umibozu. Next medieval creature is the giant bird known as the roc. It's said to be that huge it could pick up an elephant in its claws. It comes from Arabian fairy tales and mythology. Here it is with Sinbad carrying it away. You can see tales of it, of the eggs in a minute, and it could even tackle ships. Here is the one about the egg and the babies. But also here's just a theory picture of how big it was, 50 foot plus. So you can see how huge it was. I mean, in modern terms today, Paul Allen's Strasser's launch plane, as you can see here, the engineers have called this plane the Roc after the giant mythical bird. So it's just interesting little tie-in. Not much on this, to be honest, because it's one of those, but it supposedly have got mistaken with the elephant bird, which was like an ostrich, but it was huge, as you can see from the pictures above. But hey, it just got me thinking, is this where the saying came from, caught between a rock and a hard place? Is it in regard to caught between something hard and the bird, the roc, attacking you? Who knows? This is an interesting one. It's about the white bird called caladrius. Now this bird was supposed to appear to heal you or prophesize your death. If it looked at you when it arrived and sat on the bed near you, if it looked at you, like I was saying, you was going to survive, it'd heal you. If it looked away, it basically prophesizing your death. In medieval Christendom, it was an allegory used for Christ. So it's an interesting connection there, as you can see from the pictures. If it looks at you, you're going to survive. If it looks away, it's curtains, as they say. There's not much on it in regard to pictures. Obviously it appears in a lot of documentation, but I thought I'd share with you. It's not like a typical Z monster, but I just thought it was different, and that's what I'm trying to find in this video. A weird coincidence that a bioengineer tech medical firm called Caladrius work with the Vatican. They have conferences at the Vatican itself. Another time they've done in regard to stem cell conference in partnership with the Vatican's Council for Culture in April. So there's a little connection right there for you. Cynocephaly or cynocephaly comes in many forms and contexts. Obviously it derives from the dog or the jackal. cynocephalus, which is the Latin version meaning dog head. Cynocephalae from the Greek kyno, meaning dog, and kephale, meaning head. And as you can see here is Saint Christopher, who is depicted with a head of a dog or a jackal. So as it says, Saint Christopher, he was reported to be of enormous size with the head of a dog instead of a man, apparently a characteristic of Marmorite. The Byzantine depiction of Saint Christopher as a dog-headed resulted from the misinterpretation of the Latin term Canaanite to read Cananus, that is canine. Obviously the Greeks knew about Anubis, the jackal or the dog, which way you want to look at it. You then have Duamatef, which is Horus's son. He was the god protector of the canopic jars, as you can see above. Tell you what, this is a mouthful for me. Then you also had Wapawet or Wepawat, which was another deity with the head of a dog or a jackal. And then various images now that it's coming up all the way through, so I'm not going to talk too much, let the pictures speak for themselves, of dog-headed people. I'd like to put this in this as well, that you have coming up soon, you'll have Cunomagalus, which is translated as a hound or a dog lord from ancient Irish folklore. And then you've got tales and people of dogmen turning up on maps. You have the Chinese explorers seen as an island of dog-headed people. Marco Polo talked about the barbarians of Angamangamen, dogmen of Michigan, as you know. And you had shapeshifters, wolves, because as you know, wolves are from, well, dogs are from wolves according to history. So I'll let you see the various pictures coming up. Some you have seen, hopefully some that you won't. You have them on sculptures, carvings, on church doors. Coming up you have it on the Magdalene Church in Vézelay, which is interesting. So guys, I'll just let you carry on watching. Thank you so far. Right guys, this one is a basilisk or the cockatrice. Now it's weird because it merged in the 14th century in the vowel shift. I have an idea why, but there's no great evidence on it. It originates from the Latin meaning basiliscus, which means pretty king or little king, chieftain, and the cockatrice, like I said, came in the 14th century and it was made famous by Harry Potter films. Few creatures have struck more terror into hearts for longer than the basilisk. A monster feared for centuries throughout Europe and North Africa. Like many ancient marvels, it was a bizarre hybrid, a crested snake that hatched from an egg laid by a rooster and incubated by a toad. The basilisk of legend was rare but decidedly deadly. It was widely believed to wither landscapes with its breath and kill with a glare. The example above comes from German bestiary dating to a medieval period. These are just pictures that I'll put in after this, but the earliest description was given hundreds of years earlier by Pliny the Elder, who described the monster in his pioneering natural history The 37 volumes of this masterpiece were completed shortly before the author was suffocated by the sulphurous fumes of Vesuvius while investigating the eruption that consumed Pompeii. According to the Roman savants, it was a small animal not more than 12 fingers in length, but astoundingly deadly. He does not impel his body like other serpents by multiple flexation, as plainly added, but advances loftily and uprightly, was a description that, according with the then not popular notion of the basilisk as the king of the serpents, according to the same mythology, it also kills the shrubs not only by contact but by breathing on them, and splits rocks. Such power of evil is there in him. The basilisk was thought to be native to Libya, and the Romans believed that the Sahara had been fertile land until an infestation of basilisks turned it into a desert. Now, from these pictures that you'll see coming up are just various images of the snakes, the basilisk, and also the cockatrice. Like I said, they got merged together, and it was in the early 14th century or late 14th century, but it was in the 14th century they got merged, the Great Vowel Shift. And I believe the reason they got merged was because of Gnosticism and the god Abrascus, because he had a cockerel or a rooster head and he was on a serpent, he had serpent for feet. So that's why I'm just thinking, was that got interlaced, the Abrascus, the cockatrice and the basilisk. Anyway guys, here's some more pictures of the basilisk and the cockatrice mixed in. Hopefully you'll enjoy. Here's the next one, the bonnacon. A weird animal, but plain too, hiding a secret. There is an animal in Asia called the bonnacon who resembles a bull. Its horns, however, are curled in on themselves so that the beast cannot defend itself in the usual manner. But what it lacks in the front, it makes up with the action of its belly, for when it turns to run, it sprays fiery dung that covers 3 acres and burns whatever it touches. The uncommon form of protection discourages pursuers. So here's some of the images that you'll see in the medieval bestiary. Anytime it gets attacked, it turns and shoots its fiery dung. Crazy, innit? Some animals are maybe possibly out there. None other than the bonnacon. And you'll not see many images, and what you will see it is what you saw above, of if it's fiery dung being shot out up to 3 acres. Now there is an alternate translation of this, the quote, a variation on the bestiary that most often used as a basis for illustrations. Sheds a different light on the bonnacon story in translation. The bonnacon emits a fart 3 acres long to discourage pursuers. Images in the bestiaries show hunters with their heads turned away from the bonnacon and even covering their noses in disgust to block out the horrible smell of the animal's gas. And the modern day version is Pumbaa from The Lion King, as you can see from these images above, showing the effectiveness of his ass.
Yeah, they call me the black sheep. You know they call me the black sheep.
Hello and welcome. Hopefully you guys have had a great week. Again, considering the scenario that we find ourselves into now. I've made this video today a slight change of pace from what just fix my chair, not what I normally do. I've talked about different types of animals in the past, quite a long time ago in old videos, but I found myself thinking I've not actually done a standalone video on medieval monsters or medieval bestiaries, as they are called in medieval Europe. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it because I'm seeing a lot of more and more posts on medieval animals. Even today, when I'm making this, I've seen posts on it and some of the animals that I've included in it. So I just wanted to make something similar to what people have done, but different. Say you've watched my video and you can see the black sheep's made this. And I believe I've done that. I believe it's a good video. I'm not saying it's the most in-depth that you'll find on this topic, but like it is for my channel, it's a good video. It gets people interested in the subject for them to go away and research it even more. There's no point in me making a video hours and hours long and people forget the points, because I have done that in the past. So that's why I'm trying to streamline my videos as such to make good points, but in good chunks. So we have different types of bestiaries or monsters. I know some of them can technically not be called a monster, but what can I do? I can't say medieval monsters and animals and different things and birds and different things. So I've just labelled it monsters. But like I said, I've enjoyed making this. I've enjoyed researching it, finding out the different types of names these go by, finding that these mythical or folklore or real creatures, whatever way you want to look at it, are called. And that maybe helps with the theory on, are these real, are they not? Because if they're turning up, you know, all around this realm, not just in one part of the country, part of the world, maybe it's not just an allegory, or like I was saying, different things like these people who are making them are on drugs or some form of hallucinogen, because you just don't know. I can't say for 100% fact any of these creatures exist. We can only use the evidence that we see in pictures, but we know we can't take it as fact. But we do know history is one big lie. A few years ago, people would be laughing at when you talk about giant trees or giants in general. And there's more and more evidence for that. Some of these animals, yes, probably didn't exist and were misidentified, drawn, because if you think about it, in them days it would have been come back from like a sailor or an explorer, and he's coming back and he says, oh, well, you know, where have you been on your travels? And he says, oh, I've been to this island and there's mythical beasts living on that. And so that's a second-hand type of Chinese whisper type of thing, and that's how things got. Notice a lot of these stories were coming from Pliny and other ancient Greek philosophers and things like that, you know, like and Marco Polo. Some people believe Marco Polo doesn't exist. So what can we do but make a decent, interesting video, show some of the animals, and it gets you thinking. Hopefully this video will get you thinking, wow, I think that exists. I'm not sure about that. That might be misidentified. Wow, well, that's different. This is what I want to do in the video. So obviously I started off with bestiary or chest eyes as it's named, or headless men. And you have to be honest with yourself, could it be a deformity or a person with no neck? We've seen mainly with the olden people generation. I'm not saying it's completely olden, but again, I have to put in a disclaimer. I'm not going to do that anymore. It's just common sense you have to take into an approach with these things. Could it be? I've seen people mainly of an older persuasion where the necks look like they're in the chest because the necks are crooked and the shoulders are humped. Could, in fact, these people have been seeing deformities or disabilities like that? You would have to say yes. Now, what would it take for for the blemeye to exist? Obviously, you have the talk of the Zhengjian in China, and it talks about how that was created. But you also have the thought of, well, if the face is in the chest and it was in the chest, where's the brain? Would that have to be in the chest or behind? Again, is there enough room to put the brain in there? Was it, a deformity from genetic modification? Right, for instance, the most famous that we can talk about are Plum Island. And then you got Morgtog and things like that. So you've got different types of government agencies manipulating and growing human embryos and modifying, making super soldiers. If you think about it, and I won't repeat this because you can say this for a lot of the other entities or mythical creatures, real, fake. It's up to you guys. I'm not putting my any pressure by saying, oh, this is this and this is, because I just don't know. I'm using the resources. But we know all this genetic modifying has happened. We've seen many a strange animal turn up on the beach or just turn up in the middle of nowhere, and it could be the sake of it has been genetically made. It could be the fact that it's disease ridden. There's so many things. It could be made by a government agency. But back in the past, in the medieval times, I've talked about how the Great Vowel Shift work and how they change the spells. And the A, E, I, O, and U, and all that type of evidence and videos that I've talked about. So in that time period, obviously, when you got the medieval, could they have a medieval Plum Island? Could it? Because I've talked about how the Black Death or the Plague was a man-made, and it was made to wipe out and a reset. So if they got that type of technology then, and we see Tartaria, and we see ancient tech, and we always see petrified apparatus, equipment, things, and I know, yes, in the right situations things can petrify in a matter of weeks, days, or months. So these things can be that. So, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm saying this. I'm just trying to get my head around if all this ancient tech was so ancient, and specific, the Sumerians and the Anunnaki, if you believe that's true, they believe they made us to mine the gold. So if they're capable of making us, was there an ancient race capable of making these mythical creatures genetically modified? Or are they real? We talked about how the land is never been really, if there's more land outside of where we live now. We talk about the oceans not being discovered. So there's so much mysteries out there that we just do not know. And I can't say, yes, it sounds credible to say, oh my God, this is real. Do you know what I mean? You can't make yourself a laughing stock. It's all to do with faith. Do you believe these type of monsters prove? Are these depictions done by people not under the influence of any psychedelics, drugs, influence? Are they making up allegory? Is it meant for another reason? We just can't know because we wasn't there. If you look at it in your straight, like you put your straight hat on and you think, yes, highly implausible that any of these exist. But there's so many crazy things out there. So you always got to remain open, and I just treat everything with the respect it deserves. And even if you think, oh, that's really crazy, you do not know when something will come back and bite you in the ass. So you never disrespect anything or just throw anything away, because you never know when you're going to need it, that type of information. So we had the Blemier, and that was its, its Libyan and North African name. Yeah, and in Japan you had Donosuru, and obviously I've talked about Xinjiang. You had the South American, where they had the giants, and you had the Iwapanoma, and all these creatures appear on different types of maps. And like I said in the video, yes, that could be a case of explorers or rich families or entities not wanting other people to go out there and explore because of minerals, gold, whatever. If it was real to go out there, they didn't want to explore, so it was like a frightener. Don't go out there. You got the Blemier living out there, and they'll eat you and they'll kill you. That's one way of keeping people constricted into a so-called bubble and not wanting to explore. Because some of these are lies. It's obviously not a modern era thing where there's fake news to control the masses. So, like I said, I don't know what you can say. It's highly plausible. It's highly doubtful that this creature existed. Blemier, I've showed the pictures, but I cannot say for 100%. I believe it could have been misidentified. But like I say, there's a many strange animal or strange entity out there. And if there is ancient tech, ancient cultures of able to have made humans, if you believe in that, you think about it, if you're a Christian, you believe in the word of God created us, and believe in that it's a word to spell, but also there's other stories that we were made from dust and mud. So is it just humans that were made? Is there different species that were made? And then you're talking about, then you're going into another realm of, if we live in this frequency and the fairy realm, which is also known as Elvi, which is the veil, are these entities living in that frequency? And only certain people can see them, and it's like fluttering in and out of what we call, time, or in this parallel universe. So there's could be parallel universes. So there's so many theories that you can say about all these creatures. And I just keep an open mind. It's not the case of laughing, oh, this is no way. I'm curious about looking at these creatures and seeing why they turn up all around the world. Is there some truth in this? Will we ever get to this truth? You could have 10 historians and in a room, and they could all put a good point and argue. So it's down to your thoughts, your intuition, your gut instincts. Next one, you had the Penotti, the big ears, all ears, like the saying, you have all ears. Could they be true? Well, we have seen a lot of people with big ears, and nowadays people put earrings in and stretch them, but there is people with huge ears. And again, like I was said before, could they have been genetically modified? There was talking, of these Penotti who could hear evil. Were they made to hear evil? Were they watch guards? Like security? Because there's so many things. I've done videos on High Brazil, and it talks about the king of the world lives on this island, and they release the knowledge to the world. And it's a talk of the black pygmies that became the leprechauns. Things in history get changed, and it keeps getting rewritten, and each time it gets rewritten, it's like a Chinese whip. So things get added, things get taken away, things that they don't know it's allegorical, they don't know if it's real. So this is how our history is. So you had the Penotti, and then you had Uncle Neguru in China. But if you look at some of the images, they do look like a Dobby the house elf. Could these have been elves, if you believe in elves? And then you had the Ferengi, because of the ears. People don't believe in space travel. Some people believe in space travel. Some people believe it's interdimensional. Some people believe it's from outside of what we class as our map. There's extra land out there, and I've done videos showing that there is 2 islands called Janus, which is a gateway. So think of that what you wish and what you will, because me describing these animals and showing them is not going to disprove or might make you more curious to look into this and delve deeper than I have, because obviously when you're making a video, you can't spend weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks on it. This has took me long enough to do what you've seen today. So far, they could have been misidentified or just something different. They could have been... Can you imagine if all these are true, what it means? And that's what the big thing is. If you accept these things exist, it changes your reality. And we have hard enough time on a whole accepting what's going on in this reality. Some of us are curious and want to explore and want to ask the questions sometimes we don't want to hear. Because sometimes researchers and people in theories will leave out evidence that they found because it goes against what they say. And that's why I do my videos objectively as much as I can. You do have a little taste of my influences and my beliefs, but I will say it's not fact, it's not truth. Take what you will from these videos. So in this, there could be something I've totally forgot, I'm not talked about. But that is life and research, and for you guys to, you know, to tell me what I've done wrong, which is a lot of times. But it's great info, and I'm always learning. So I learn from the comments. I always say that because I've got some of the best subscribers, family, friends. I've got the pleasure to not physically meet. I've met a few in person, but you know what I'm trying to get at. So I keep on learning. So could that be misidentification? They could all be. But it's just very, very intriguing, isn't it, when you look at it and see the pictures and the carvings, and then take it to one step further and you see it in being in stone, you know, carved into side of churches, cathedrals, actually made into woodwork. Going that one step further to think, well, if this doesn't exist, why are they going to this level? Next one I had on the list, I think, was monopods or sciapods. And like we keep saying, we don't know if this is real. This is probably one of the ones that you think is more plausible because you've seen more modern era, like I don't know what the technical name is, but the bone, like the legs and the feet, you know, the skin sewn together, basically, you know, and it's called, I don't know if it's called mermaidism or if there's a scientific Latin name for it, but you can see how that and tied together with webbed feet, you could be classed as a mermaid, and see where that myth could have come from. And it talks about how these people put the feet up to shade from the sun. So obviously these lived in a warmer climate. So obviously if to do that, could this have been someone just putting his feet up one day who's got abnormal feet and someone that's in it? But who knows? But you saw the extent that this goes. It goes into carvings. It goes into great detail. Another interesting one. One that was weird that I put in was a trusty servant. And they were classed as Herco servers. But Herco servers was like an animal with a stag head with different type of feet. And all the images I could find stated this trusty servant wasn't a Herco service, but it was put in that same bracket. But the name, the trusty servant, was this like, for instance, when I've watched all these films and vampire films and things, they always have a werewolf, the lycan, to protect them in the day. Could this be that type of creature, a trusty servant doing all the dog's body work, hence dog body and how it looked? You saw it appear on pottery and then the allegorical poems and references. That one did have a more Masonic feel to it than any others, just because of some of the clothes that they were wearing and where it tended to pop up. So again, I can't say, and I won't say, because I'm not here to offend anyone who's done even more research by saying, oh, he's saying these are real, he's saying these fake. I just want to make an interesting video for you guys to take away and use or just ponder on. Next one was the manticore, and the manticore, as I said in the video and from the research, they use that symbol to represent the devil. But like any of these creatures, through the medieval times and then later, they get changed. They get extra appendages like wings or a tail that throws spikes. The hooves get moved to feet. But the interesting thing was that is of the program I watched, because I'm a sci-fi, I love sci-fi programs, and is it James Cameron? I'm not sure if it was Cameron who made it, and it was called Dark Angel, and it was about children being genetically modified to be super soldiers, and it was that long ago, I can't remember the total plot of it, but there is certain genetically modified children that look like lions and different things, and there's been many programs and different things on that island of Dr. Moreau and different things like this. But what was funny is the program, or the baddies, were called manticore, which is that mythical creature. I always have handy, I've done videos on the celestial sphinx, and how all major religions and cultures derive from the four creatures, and them same four creatures make up God and Jesus. You have the ox, you have the man, you have the eagle, and you have Leo the lion, and they make the cherubim as well. And I always have a handy at the side, and you see my videos on the celestial sphinx, the Who. So creation talks about how we came from them four animals to make and morph. So there is story from creation talking about genetically modified or manipulated animals and humans together to form angels, to form mythical creatures. The old, like I said, they used that for the devil, but similar. It was like a sphinx. It had wings, had a lion's head, and that was a symbol used for Christ in medieval times. I've included that in old videos. So like that, the baddies in that, the manticore, just shows you, the chimera. So we've always had it. We had, is it Dolly the sheep in modern eras? But that's just what we know. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors in these laboratories, in these secret installations. And we don't know what ancient modification has happened to humans, to hybrids, to animals, to form this. Did people see these? Like I said before, did these people actually could able to see the powers, the pineal gland, the frequencies that people were on in them days? There was less like radio waves and stuff, pollution to block and hold us back. Could they actually see the so-called furry realm? Who knows? These are all questions for maybe future videos or in between yourselves in the chat. So that was interesting. And then you had the sea bishop and the sea monk. Now these could possibly be misdiagnosed, identified, because oh my god, how many fish do we see on a regular basis getting washed up on the shores, on the beaches, and they look like aliens? Does that mean that they've come from the deep parts, or is it chemicals? Is it radiation? Is it toxic? Or is it made and released to the wild to actually procreate with natural species? These are just things that we have to put on the table, and that's why I can't say for 100%, because I can't prove none of these for 100%. You just got to use what we can find, and that formulate an idea of, could it possibly, or is it totally laughable? But you had the sea bishops, the sea monks, you had the umbozu in different regions around, again similar creature, but similar type of thing out the sea. It looked like a Buddhist monk, Taoist monk, whoever the religion is in that era. But when I looked at the sea bishop, I automatically thought, wow, that looks like Dagon the fish king. So then you had the link then to Christianity, the mitre hat, and you can quite see it. I've not manipulated it. The sea bishops do look like, if I took away the sea bishop and then put Dagon underneath, people would accept, oh wow, yeah, that is Dagon the fish king. So that's just something I wanted to put in certain parts to just think, maybe, and maybe this is the reason certain things get changed, to form and put opinions and manifestations in our head, indoctrinate as such, get the agenda pushed subliminally. Who knows? Then you had the rock, the bird. Now, there's been many a tale of huge flying birds like the thunderbird, pterodactyl, obviously the dinosaur type, and this one I've never heard of, the name The Rock. Now, a few years ago, I watched a program and they were saying huge birds could not exist because the bones were too heavy. Because obviously birds that we see, the bones are hollow to make them light. But I just don't know. Maybe like giants, but if the oxygen level and other levels make giant trees. If we had giant trees and we had giants, why didn't we have giant vegetation? Which I think that mushroom that's still in, is it Idaho, I think, or somewhere like America, one of the biggest natural organisms in the world. So if you had giant mushrooms, why wouldn't we have giant creatures? Because people automatically go to dinosaurs, they're fake. But if we had these animals, if we had giant trees, giant animals, why couldn't we have giant animals to go with the giants and the giant trees and giant insects? Now, people call them dinosaurs, or you can just be what we know, the oxygen level was so different. Animals, creatures, people grew to extraordinary sizes. But obviously, I don't know the engineering side and the physical on flight. Is it a case of planes fly, and obviously they are heavy, but they're also light, and they have a thrust, and people talk about they don't have fuel, and it's crystal piezoelectric engines, and they just use the gas or the diesel or the fuel to thrust to get up, and once they're up, it's fine. They can recycle the energy. Is that a case of with big winged animals? Once they are up, they are up, but it's just the thrust and the power needed for that initial get up. Who knows? Like I said, I'm not no engineer to say yes, that is possible. What I found interesting was how the link between the Paul Allen stratosphere plane and the engineers calling it The Rock, was that the size of it, or was it just the inspiration? And is it the saying, we're caught between a rock and a hard place from this? Is it the fact that people were trapped against mountains or buildings or out and about, and this rock was flying about, and they're like, oh my god, I'm caught between the rock, there's no way escaping, and this? Is that where the saying come from? Or is it something different? Like I say, I'm not here to say these are facts, I'm just putting ideas out there. I'm theorising. What ifs? Yes, they are what ifs. The next one that I talked about was caladrius. That originally turned up from Roman times in houses of the king. It was a white bird. Its dung could heal the blind. And it was a bird for prophecy. It could fly down, land at your bed. If it looked at you, it could heal you and help to heal you, and you were going to survive. If it looked away, you was going to die. So that's not a nice thing that you want to see. Now, where did he get ideas from? Is this from where we got the idea of the spirit, the white dove in Christianity? Because obviously the dove, the white bird, is linked to, is it Inanna or another Mesopotamian type of god? Who knows? Like I said, I'm just throwing ideas out there. But again, Pliny and the same type of ancient philosophers are the ones that's, it's like these guys control. It's like a monopoly of information. Are they control opposition because it's out there? And this is why we look at when we're in our truth game. It's hard to believe just one source or any source. I honestly try and just look at it as information. I don't believe or disbelieve. Some of it does resonate with me. But if you just treat it as information, and that's how I make my videos, I treat it as information. If it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, it's just one of those things. No harm, no foul, as they say. What was interesting was the link with the Vatican and that medical firm, biotech and bioengineering firm called Caladrius, and how they're working with stem cells and other things and working together with the Vatican. That was a coincidence, considering the Rome link that we was just talking about with the bird. Then I include the Kino or Sino or Cynocephalae, the dog head, or the jackal. That's an interesting one, and a lot of people know this one because of obviously the link with St. Christopher. You've seen the icons and the pictures I've included, and there's some pictures that I've not seen that I included with that. And then you obviously have to state the Egyptian link between Anubis and Wepawet and I can't remember, Horus's son, Duapadet or something like that. It was a canopic jars. So you can see the influence the Greeks took from this, because that's when it first started to appear. Are they taking inspiration from this, or did these things exist? You can talk about many a culture around the world talk of animals, shapeshifters, werewolves, because all dogs supposedly came from wolves. Well, how does a dog come from a wolf without manipulating? Do you know what I mean? It's like, did two werewolves or two wolves mate and get a smaller thing and it looks out a different species? So these are the things that we have to ask. It's like manipulator, and they breed dogs now with different species to get different lines. Is this what's going on back then? I just don't know. But it's interesting because you have ancient talks of werewolf people, islands with dog-headed men on. Again, are these deformities? Are these results from a great war, radiation? Because obviously you have the Egyptian and Libyan glass. You're talking about places around the world that it looks like it's melted. So, and that Hindu valley, there is scorch marks of bones. It's basically, it looks like a nuclear blast. And yes, some people, when they get triggered, there's no such thing as a nuclear blast. It's a high energy type of weapon. It's a blast. You can see it. It's melted it, so it's heat. So it can be a lot of things. It could be sound weapons, because sound can create heat. Sound can create magnetism. Sound can repel. Sound can attract. Sound can create light. So there's a lot of things that I've talked about in the past. And this always rings true, because what are we always brought up on? It's werewolves. It is vampires. And are these actually true? Are these folklore? Are they just bedtime stories? It talks about vampires that use werewolves as guardians for the day. It's just an intriguing thing to think about, is what is real and what is not. Because that gap, it seems to be disappearing quite fast lately. I know the next one I was talking about, the basilisk and the cockatrice. I've included them both together because when I was looking into the basilisk, the cockatrice image was turning up all the time, and it talks about how they merged. Because it started off, the basilisk as the great serpent, and we have the great serpent like Apep, serpent of it as from the devil, and all them tales of giant snakes, the Leviathan, the snake in the garden. So how and why did it merge to have a cockerel head? And then there's talks of how the cockerel or the basilisk was made by putting a toad, which is another image for Moloch, and manipulating. It sounds like manipulation, but just in a fancy name, to make the cockatrice, which was like a serpent with the head of a cockerel and a serpent's body. You have a lot of around Europe, especially in Warsaw, the Warsaw basilisk. Then you obviously got the famous basilisk from Harry Potter films, and how the look could freeze you, petrify you, and that has been told throughout history. So what do these people actually see? Is this from a gorgon like Medusa? Who knows? And people expel on it in stories, and it's then taken as fact, or they're just all myth and folklore. It's interesting that. And then you have the link with Abrascus, who is the demiurge, who does look like the bottom half of Melusina, which is like the it appeared in France, and she was obviously where all the so-called the royal families supposedly got the reptilian, the serpent bloodline from. And it's funny that the Abrascus has the bottom like the coffee brand. I forgot what it's called now because I don't drink that coffee. Oh, Starbucks. And it's got a cockerel head. It's just so fascinating. Now, again, is it DNA manipulation? Is it bioengineering? Or is it just total false? Is it just things to scare people? And these are what you can say with any of these animals. Then lastly, but not leastly, you have the bonnacon, which, wow, was so unusual I had to include it because I'm known to occasionally fart. You have a creature which is on the scale of what we've talked about, is looking rather normal. And it looks like it's curled horns and it couldn't defend itself. But if it turns its arse like a skunk, supposedly it was able to fire up to 3 miles or 3 acres or 3 furlongs of fiery dung, fiery shit. Now maybe that contained ammonia or something that burned the eyes, or that, again, could it have been totally false? There's no way of me answering it until if I met one misidentified quite easily. It could have been an animal, and then a skunk could have been at the bottom of its feet in the bush. You just don't know. But it's interesting, that idea of this type of animal and seeing the images for it. So I had to include that as a little, the final one to make. So all these animals, like I've talked about, like the bonnacon, the basilisk, could be misidentified. There's no harm saying yes, it can be misidentified. There's no harm in saying it could be real. There's no harm in saying they were engineered, they were made. Because if we're talking, like I said before, if there's ancient cultures capable of doing all the buildings, capable of doing the free energy, capable of doing what we can see in this realm, why can they not manipulate animals? That's all I have to say on that. And do I think some of them are real? There's possibles, but I do believe some of them are misidentified. But, guys, you have to think about it. It's like anything in this realm. Sometimes we need to see it to believe it. Everything can't be on faith. And then sometimes you have to have your objective mind to it. I mean, I've seen some weird things that I would have laughed. Not to your face, because I never do that. But do you know what I mean? It's just saying, I would have just gone, no way is that real. And I've seen it and I can't explain it. But I don't go around screaming. I've seen 2 UFOs and I know the theory of space out there. But UFO just means it's unidentified. I could have misidentified it. So all these things could be unidentified or misidentified. And there's no harm in saying real, fake. It doesn't matter. It's just information, interesting things that what if you lived in the medieval times or earlier and these types of animals did exist. Like we say, we've not explored the sea, or they say we've not explored the sea. I mean, just look at how we supposedly have evolved. Came from the sea, and then from blobs and craps and all that crap. You know what I mean? So we just don't know. Some of them you could say they're highly unlikely, but it's just interesting. Nothing grabs your imagination like this type of thing. And obviously it spans so many films, TV series, talking about how they manipulated, geo-engineered. Or could some of these species actually be made from the creator at the beginning? Could these be demons? Like I said, it could be just misidentified. Archons, angels, who knows? But I just found it fascinating and I want to put my little spin on it. I could make more of these in the future. Like I say, I don't restrict myself to one topic. I just bounce from things to one. It's, for instance, the reason I talked about this was because I was away and I bought a book on medieval, the Time Traveller's Guide to Medieval England, and it had bestiaries in it. But I knew of the bestiaries and the monsters. But I just thought, wow, I've not done a video on it. It's hailstoning now and raining. If you can hear it on the screen, it's bam the window. But guys, hopefully you've enjoyed it, and I have to say a big thank you for everyone out there who supported this channel. Please, if you enjoy my stuff, my videos, and just share it, like it, please like it, comment. I try my best to answer all the comments, but obviously YouTube are not allowing it me, so please don't take offense if I don't answer. It just means I can't get to it. If physically I can't get to it. But no, I do appreciate every comment, because without you guys, I'm just talking to myself, which I do a lot of the time anyway. So thank you for your support. Please like, share. Please, tell people, there's not a bad guy who makes not bad videos, has some weird theories. Some are really, hit home. Some of them make sense. Some of them are way out there, but still, it helps to pass the time. And I'm here to just do what I can to help people. You know what I mean? Whether it's watching videos or talking in the chat. What I get very, very proud of is the chat. I have constant messages from new people who come and say how you guys have made them feel at home in the chat. That is absolutely outstanding. It is. I'm just wowed by how, we have a good bunch on subscribers, and they make people who are new feel like they've always been here. And you can't buy that. A lot of people suffer from mental illness, have a lot of bad things happen in their life, and they want to escape. What a better way to come to our chats and forget about the world for half an hour to 2 hours. And you guys have done that and have helped me. So I'll always truly be thankful for that, guys. I'm so proud. And we don't we don't even have to label ourselves as anything, because you guys have seen it. Right, guys, please smile if you can. Please pay it forward. And like I said, please like and subscribe, comment, and I'll try and get back to you. Anything else, just message me. And I just thank you for the support that you showed. Right, take care, guys, and I'll see you in the chat.